This is the lesson for the 17th, 18th of May 2021, Tuesday, for European history. We had talked about the Battle of the Atlantic as a turning point battle of World War II, and it is. On it rests the ability of the United States to project its industrial might and manpower across the ocean into Europe. Now, the strategy that is decided upon after Pearl Harbor, when President Roosevelt famously says, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy, naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan, in an unprovoked and dastardly attack, struck our naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Since that time, a state of war has existed between the Empire of Japan and the United States of America. That's the last time the United States has officially declared war on anyone, December 8th, 1941. Hitler foolishly declares war on us as part of his interpretation of the Tripartite Pact between Germany, Italy, and Japan. But the Japanese do not have to declare war on the Russians. Hitler really declares war on us because he's irritated that the American Navy is helping the British get goods across the Atlantic Ocean. In other words, there's an undeclared naval war between America and Germany going on 4 months before Pearl Harbor. Ships are sunk, families are misinformed because the American public is not supposed to know about it. When the attack happens, a decision is made between Britain and the United States that we will have a Europe first strategy. In other words, that while we will hold Japan in the Pacific and maybe push back, the primary effort will be spent on the primary enemy, which is Nazi Germany. This is not necessarily a particularly popular opinion among certain segments of the American public, but it is overwhelmingly the decision of the administration. So winning the Battle of the Atlantic is key. And bringing convoys of ships across the ocean by just over a third of the way through 1943 begins to become more assured. The Allies, by, say, May of 1943, are beginning to win the Battle of the Atlantic with aircraft that can span the ocean and with hunter-killer groups that move from convoy to convoy that have miniature, what are called escort aircraft carriers. So those submarines that have been predating upon the shipping have fewer and fewer places to hide from aircraft. Ultimately, the Battle of the Atlantic is going to be won, although at the very end, the Germans throw a monkey wrench into it by developing a new type of diesel-electric submarine that can operate more fully underwater, equipped with a snorkel, which is a big long tube that you can breathe through. If you've ever done skin diving, you know what a snorkel is. Well, the snorkel on German submarines is big enough and well ventilated enough to provide the submarine's crew and equipment with enough fresh air so that all you have to do is stick the snorkel above the water. You don't need to surface the entire submarine. These new Type 21 boats might have turned the tide against the Allies, but they came too few and too late at the end of the war. Unfortunately, they are the basis for all post-war diesel-electric submarines operated by our enemies and potential enemies in China, North Korea, Russia, Iran. So, if there is another war, no doubt there will be more submarine attacks on shipping. Still, the Battle of the Atlantic, an essential turning point battle that is won. Now we are shifting to a more classical definition of turning point battle. In other words, a single short, sharp conflict that is a fulcrum point, a turning point in the war. And the turning point could have been to make the Axis have greater victories or to turn the tide so the Allies might. The first of these turning point battles happens here in North Africa at a place called El Alamein, which is a choke point between the Qattara Depression, which is an impassable lowland south of the coastal plain, and the Mediterranean Sea. In order to go around the Qattara Depression, it would take weeks, and it would be extremely vulnerable to attack. So the only way, really, for Rommel and the Afrika Korps and the Italians to get into Egypt is to go through El Alamein with a frontal attack. Now, in July of 1942, the Afrika Korps is driving towards Egypt, but the British managed to fortify this narrow strip World War I style. Trenches, lots of troops, lots of tanks, heavy artillery, anti-tank weapons, and the Germans are ground to a standstill. Still, all the British have done is hold the Germans off. Well, in October of 1942, there is a push back. There's a new British general, Montgomery, who is going to hit the German front with more artillery than has been used by anyone since the First World War. Up until now, tanks and aircraft have taken the place of artillery in World War II. It's been a war of mobility, a war of air and land mobility. But because El Alamein is such a choke point, the British are able to get old style, all these old World War I guns into position. And if an artillery gun hits a tank, the tank goes bye-bye. So the attack is planned for a pre-dawn barrage of incredible proportions when British sappers are going to move through the darkness looking for mines to make pathways through the German minefields so that by dawn, British tanks, trucks, and infantry can pass through those pathways under the umbrella of the artillery barrage and attack the Germans and push them back. So, would you please shut the fan off, close the shades, and we'll come back after a clip from the movie Desert Victory, which was made at the time, just after the battle, with genuine battle footage of the Battle of El Alamein.